Hello, guys. Welcome to Takeaways and Things to Do for Week 7. Today I'm pretty excited because we have a great session with Henrik, and we start talking about these new topics that are related on how to create your company. All right, you already have a great product, a great idea. We have tested it, we have talked to customers, we have even made a prototype, but how are you gonna be able to have a sustainable company throughout the years and be like Amazon or Google, which became big companies in years after having their garage ideas, to mention it that way. You have to know why you're doing things or what are you supposed to do. You have to have a purpose. A company has to have a purpose and a set of values. And in that sense, you have to start asking questions, philosophical questions, by the way, in which you're going to be answering why you're doing things. And as Henrik mentioned, there's this great book, Start with a Why, that basically says that effective leaders start with a why. And starting with a why takes you to find your purpose as a company. Once you have your purpose, you have to emotionally connect to your customers in order to communicate them why you're doing things. One of the guys here at Monterey were giving an example taken from the book, which tells the story of Apple computers. And then basically were very good communicating why they were doing things, not exactly what they were doing. They weren't talking about microprocessors or connection or ports or compatibility or code or even what the computer was made of. They were talking about the necessity to have a great appliance at home and having that vision of having one person connected to one computer as a lifestyle. And that's very powerful because you have the possibility to connect with your customers and tell them why you're doing things. And of course, there are some things that you have to avoid. Henrik mentioned five. The first one, you have to avoid generalization. You cannot have a mission statement that talks about everything and nothing at the same time. You have to avoid confusion. You have to be very clear, very simple. Monterey's text vision, for example, is very simple. It's very short. You can even memorize it. Formar líderes con espíritu emprendedor, sentido humano y competitivos internacionalmente. That's the Spanish version, of course, but what I'm trying to tell you is that it has to be short and brief and not only short in the number of words you're using, but short in the main idea you want to convey to your customers, and that's very important. You have to avoid this fluffy thing. And someone was asking through today's meet what fluff is. Fluff is something that doesn't make sense. Something really mixed up. It doesn't add up. So avoid that. Avoid that. Don't try to be sophisticated on that because you're gonna end up with fluff. Avoid boredom. You don't wanna have a great text that you're going to be yawning because it's too long. It has a lot of elements, and even though it makes sense, it is not easy to remember. And finally, avoid the marketing stunt. You don't want to be something that you are not just for the sake of selling products. Be very careful with that. And along with the mission statement, you have to have your values. And basically, your values are reflected by the way you lead, setting an example, making great products, giving great customer service, and being a great company at the very end. One of the main topics of the session was related to sustainability. And at the very beginning, when I accepted to give the course here with Henrik, I was very intrigued by having this sustainability topic within the course. But today, the way Henrik connected the concepts made me think in a different way. This triple bottom line is a very important concept. John Dunning, a international business academician, calls it the new paradigm of development, and has to do with the new thinking of companies of making this bottom line in three ways: the economic competitiveness, the environmental competitiveness, and the social competitiveness. And as long as you can have a balance between those, you can be truly competitive in the long term. And that's the very purpose of talking about a sustainable competitive advantage. You're taking care of all the elements in which your company is connected to a social environment. And that's very important to consider it when you are building your strategic plan, your mission, your values, and all that. And there's this very interesting concept that I'm taking from today's session, that is the cradle to cradle concept instead of the cradle to grave. The cradle to cradle concept has to do with a circular kind of creation and the beginning of products. How you can be able to create something that can be reincorporated to a manufacturing line or to the environment. And that's why we have these two circles. The circle on the left is the biosphere circle, and the circle on the right is the technosphere circle, in which you can be having a product that eventually you can put apart into pieces and recycle them, or if you have a product that has some bio elements, you can take those elements, dispose of them in the right way, and let them decompose and reincorporate to the environment. And that cradle-to-cradle concept is something that companies are having in mind, not just because they want to be environmentally friendly, but because it is even cheaper to dispose of these products when they're not useful anymore. At the very end, the last concept that we covered was the SWOT analysis. And the SWOT analysis is a situational analysis in which you take your company, your product, and start looking first to the environment and see what are the opportunities. In the environment, what are the opportunities and what are the threats? And of course, then you go back and think from within the company and find your strengths and weaknesses. This SWOT analysis concept is a very classic, and it's been used for a long time whenever you're analyzing your competitive advantage. And we're going to be talking about that later on during the course. But today, what we need you to know is that it is a very useful tool to let you know where you really are. Basically, those were the concepts that we covered today in the session. This is the first strategic planning session for the course. We have ended the section in which we covered the innovation topics, and I'm sure we're going to have a great rest of the course trying to adapt this strategy concept to your final project. So good luck, and see you next Tuesday.